I'm very fortunate to have two individuals from an office that I started off working in the 4th Judicial District Probation Department. I started there many years ago, and that's many years ago. Working with state probation for about 5 years before I went to federal probation. So Wade Whitlock and Nick Dana are both going to present to you today. Wade I met several years ago when he was the internship coordinator for the 4th Judicial District. So Wade has been promoted, he's moved on from that position. So I'm going to turn it over to Wade and Nick, and they will make their presentations today. Feel free to ask questions. They have some assignments that you're going to have to do too, so we'll continue to roll on with that. So Wade, thank you again.
Thank you very much for the invitation, Mike. We really appreciate it. As Mike said, my name is Wade Whitlock. I'm a probation supervisor with the 4th Judicial District, and I supervise a diverse group of people. I run our victim services unit and look over that, as well as I supervise the Director of Volunteer Services, which is Raymond Sanesteven. Some of you may know Raymond. I know the volunteers and interns that we have currently. Sarah and Lauren and Crystal back here are very familiar with who Ray is, and Ray's spoken at some of the internship fairs. So very nice to be here. And then also, the 4th Judicial District encompasses 2 counties, El Paso County and Teller County. Teller County is our more rural district, and I supervise the officers in that county. I have with me today Nick Diana. He'll tell you a little about himself and what he does.
Nick Diana, I've been with the department for about 10 years. I started out doing DUIs, and it was mostly just monitoring. I just did people's DUI evals. Then I moved over to the juvenile unit, and I stayed there for about a year and a half, and then moved over to domestic violence, and that's where kind of things started taking off for me. That's kind of where I really enjoy that caseload. After that, I was in that for about 2 years, moved over to ISP, where Wade and I worked pretty close together as officers. And then I moved over to ISP drug court, and so that was pretty intensive. And then they switched over ISP probation to limit setters intensive probation, and kind of a little rundown of LSIP is your super antisocial clients, okay? So you're going to see a lot of gang members, a lot of domestic violence offenders on that caseload. Criminal thinking, high risk, low need. So a lot of these guys, and I say guys because it mostly is men, I can probably count, I only have had 1 LSIP female on my caseload, so it's all mostly men. Very criminal minded, a lot of them don't have drug problems, a lot of them smoke weed, they can put it down at any time, but it's just that criminal thinking. I also do the COG skills courses for probation. So I started out doing Thinking for a Change, which Wade and I co-facilitated together, and then I was trained in MRT, Moral Recognition Therapy. It's a 12-step program, and it's self-paced for the clients, and it's pretty interesting the difference between Thinking for a Change is for people with, I would say, lower on the lower side of not having social skills. MRT is people that lack accountability, lack goal setting, but they do have some of those social skills. So it's kind of a brief intro of me.
Thank you, Nick. We're going to be focusing today kind of on that limit setter intensive probation population, that antisocial, oppositional, defiant type of people. And so you'll be introduced to more of that as we move along. So we're going to start by giving a little brief overview of probation before we go into our presentation on Thinking for a Change. And so what is probation? Of course, most of you know this from being in Mike's class. It's a post-conviction, community-based supervision program. And it's to provide alternatives to incarceration. You'll often hear the term diversion program thrown out. Probation falls under that umbrella. So what it is if you have a misdemeanor conviction, you can face a certain amount of jail time. So let's say you have 2 years of potential jail on the table. But instead of sending you to jail, I mean, you might have been there for a couple of weeks after you got arrested and until your sentencing or a month, we're going to put you, instead of giving you the full 2 years of jail, we're going to divert you into an alternative to incarceration, into a program like probation. And there's other programs out there, but probation is the largest in this case. Now, also, it diverts people from prison into a community-based program as well. So in other words, there's prison on the table. They've committed a felony offense, and they could go away to prison for 4 years. But wait, we're going to do you a favor. We're going to divert you into another program. We're going to give you an opportunity to get your life together, and we're going to put you on probation. And the majority of cases that Nick and I've dealt with are felony convictions, multiple felonies. Matter of fact, not just one, several, and they continue to go kind of back and forth from incarceration or jail. On this level, even though they have a felony, they'll go to jail for a while, they'll stay there for a few months because they picked up a new felony, and then they'll get back out on probation, then they'll go back to jail, and so forth and so on. And we continue to try to work with them out of custody in a community-based setting. Why a community-based setting? Why is that, and why do we try to do that? Anybody have a clue? There's several reasons, but
Some of us in the class should have a clue, otherwise they're taking the course over again next semester.
so why a diversion program?
To keep them involved inside of the community as much as possible.
Okay, you keep them involved in the community. Why is it important to keep them involved in the community?
So they don't lose the connection to the community.
Okay,
In the essence, because when they go to a prison, a lot of times, well, most times if they spend a lot of time in prison, they're disconnected, and then it's hard for them to get functional back into the nose of the community. So you want to keep them involved as much as possible, but also keep watch on them while they're interacting with the community. Make sure they're keeping the community safe.
I think that's a beautiful thought. It's the idea that there's certain supports within the community that they have, and certain connections, and that those connections can often act as a restraining force to keep them on the straight and narrow. Grandma's still out there, maybe saying, giving them a sense of like, I need to get my life right, and those connections help them to function in the community. What else? Any other thoughts?
Money, if you're out of prison or jail, then you
Okay.
get jobs, that's helping the community.
Okay, so, and there's a lot of thinking around that. Prison is more expensive than community-based supervision programs. Of course, there's always a debate going on and the tension going on, like $50 billion worth of economic crime. What's cheaper, putting them in prison or leaving them out on the street to commit economic crimes? So there's this debate going on. What's really impacting society more? Is the incarceration really more expensive, or is it not? And that goes back, and that swings back and forth. But I think most people can agree on, we don't want them to lose all their social support, because for most crimes, we can't keep people in prison forever, correct? They're going to get out. So if we've stripped them of all connections in the community, and we've stripped them all of their social supports, and they become estranged, then they're even more adrift, more afloat, and more likely to end up back in prison again. So that's kind of why probation exists, is to provide some accountability and to provide an alternative to incarceration, and looking at ways to keep them connected with those pro-social supports that they have in the community. And there's other reasons too. Mike, you got any other ideas on that? Good. So those on probation meet with a probation officer. It's pretty basic, right? So Nick and I are going to demonstrate a role play of an appointment. And it's to kind of give you an idea of what, and we're going to have a discussion. What does a probation officer do in these appointments? And we're gonna play that out so that you can see maybe how an appointment goes. Now, I'm not calling this a typical appointment. This appointment is about you looking at an appointment and saying, where does probation fall? Who are they? What do they do in an appointment? And we'll debrief that when we're done. So, Nick, you're ready? So I am going to be a probationer. I'm on probation. Nick is my probation officer.
All right, wait. So what's been going on since our last appointment?
As if you care. You sit there all like high and mighty, like up on your stool, like you're gonna be all like intimidating to me. You don't intimidate me, dude.
Really? I don't intimidate you at all.
Nope.
You know what? How about I just request this warrant? I mean, I have it up here on my screen.
Oh yeah,
All
we go
I
there,
do
we
is
go
just
there.
press send. That's all I need to do.
Immediately, that's
We
what you're all
we
about.
can have court transport come in here.
Nail them, jail them, throw them in jail, that's all you're about.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You know when I look at you, I see my dad's face. You know what I wanna do when I see my dad's face? Punch it. That's what I wanna do.
So tell me about your father.
You don't care about my father.
Talk to me about it. What's going on?
Nick, you have no idea what it's like. You're sitting there like, you're thinking with my mind, dude. Like, as if you really care about me and my
You know,
father.
speaking of mine, you haven't done your mental health eval. Why haven't you
Well,
done that?
see that? That's what I'm talking about.
Why haven't you done that? I give you one simple task and you can't.
Or maybe I got some mental health problems. Maybe that's why I don't want to do my mental health eval.
So tell me about your father. Did he contribute to these mental health problems?
I don't even know. So, you know, I'm 42 years old. You don't know what it's like. I live in my dad's basement. He's down there at 9 o'clock every day kicking me out of bed, telling me what a lazy ass I am. You don't know what I'm going through.
And you know what? Your father is right. Because you haven't done crap since you've been on probation. You sit at home, you play video games, you do nothing. You're 42 years old. You're a freaking loser. Get your ass out of bed and start applying for jobs.
Oh, this is it.
This is it.
If you had a dad like mine, you'd understand.
Well, tell me more about your father.
You drag me out in the yard, you know, spraying me off with water hose, all the friends coming by, humiliating me. Do you know what that does to a kid?
I can't imagine what it does to a child. Tell me more about that.
Coming in, 2 o'clock in the morning.
You know what? I'm so sick of this. I'm so sick of this. You're over the line. You're inappropriate. Hands against the wall. You're going into custody. I got your last UA. It was hot for meth.
What are you talking
You're
about,
lazy.
dude?
Get your hands against the wall right now.
You're crazy, man.
So do probation appointments really go like that,
We
guys?
can clap.
You guys have come a long way since I was in probation. Things have changed.
So what do you guys think? Do probation appointments really go like that for our volunteers? No?
You don't think so?
I don't.
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
So sometimes.
Okay, go from one extreme to the other. Okay, so talk to me about that. Why do you think they go from one extreme to the other?
People have different personalities, I mean, so you just don't know.
My
what's-
personality or his?
Well, yeah.
I was out there.
So we have a little scale up here, you know, between a therapist on one side and a cop on the other side. What were you seeing in that? Were you seeing some of both?
Both.
You know, okay, tell me what you identified. What did you see? When was he a therapist or a cop?
So tell me about it, having a chance to explain your upbringing, like why you behave this way. And then the cop was just really serious, like, okay, I understand where you're coming from, but you still have these obligations, why have you been doing it?
Oh, okay, okay. So this, and of course we went kind of over the top of these extremes, you know? like 1 minute he's all, you know, laying me back on the couch and psychoanalyzing me. The next minute I'm up against the wall, you know, being taken in handcuffs. So where do you, we're in a typical, in a typical probation appointment, what can you imagine it looking like?
In a typical appointment, I would say that there are still aspects of them talking to them, nearly extreme, but
Okay.
still kind of like laying down the law, and, you know, you didn't get your UA in, I can put a warrant out for your arrest. Do you
Okay.
want one more chance, or do you want to be arrested?
All right, okay.
I think it's sort of the analyzing where they are making progress. Are they talking to you? Are they not talking to you? And have they maybe fallen back from what they're supposed to be?
So you're looking at whether they're moving ahead and making progress, not so much whether they've got it all together, I guess is what you're trying to say. So how you respond is kind of based on some of that. So yes, I think you guys have a good idea of it. I would say that if I had to draw a circle, I would say it's probably weighted more on this side. We would be in more of a helping professions in this day and age in probation. We would be more about reform, character reformation, about seeing that they get hooked up with the resources that they need to get their thinking changed, get them on a different kind of track. So it's important that you know this as far as if you, when you're choosing a career path in probation or law enforcement model, and what fits better with your gift set, what fits better with your personality. If you lean towards, you know, a more helping oriented type of person, this may be for you. Here's what I'll tell you though. We've had several interns through the years that come in. They're going to be a police officer. It's a foregone conclusion. It's all they've ever wanted to do. And they've not even considered probation. And they get around probation to learn about, because they want to learn about the other side of the system, because you can learn a great deal about the court system, and getting to know how to speak the language and conversing with district attorneys and public defenders and standing before judges as an intern. And so they want to get to know about that side of things, and then they find out, dang, I like this, I feel like I'm called to this. And all of a sudden you'll see them applying for jobs and getting hired. And so there's room for those strong, hard lines that we lay down.
You know, you'll see it a lot with, for example, the domestic violence offenders. Those guys are highly manipulative. You have to draw a strong, hard line with those guys. I had one extreme domestic violence offender. His case was, I don't know how he got probation. You know who I'm talking about. Don't know how he got probation, but his case was presented as a case study at a conference. That's how extreme his case was. And first appointment, he comes in, I'm his third officer. Okay, he's blown through two officers because first one he intimidated, the second one they just argued all the time. And then, so I was the lucky one to inherit this case. Okay, so how do you? This guy comes in, former military, just extreme narcissist. Comes into my office, sits down, and says to me, "You know what? If I wanted to, I would rip your arms off right now, beat you with them, and throw you out that window." And I said, "What do I do here? What do I do?" So I looked at him straight in the eye and I said to him, "What do you get out of that? What do you get out of intimidating other people?" He goes, "I'm not intimidating you, I'm just telling you the fact you're trying to intimidate. You have no idea my sort of training, anything like that, and you're already trying to pick a fight with me." And so you have to draw that hard line. Ever since then, he came into my office, and him and I had a great working relationship. He got off ISP successfully, okay, and then now he's sitting in the Department of Corrections on a completely new charge for 24 years. So, you know, that's how bad, this guy was. So, there are those people that are just straight criminals. Then you have some of your mental health people you have to be more of a therapist to. Bless your heart.
And you deal with extreme. They have it's a mix. They need this and they need this at literally the same time. I mean, they're running amok. I had a lady on probation who was, working as a prostitute out of a local hotel while she was on probation, using meth, but also just totally messed up. Sorry, no other politically correct way to say this. This lady was flat out crazy, and she just was bipolar and would just go off the deep end. And she'd call me and leave these 20-minute messages that, yeah, quite entertaining actually. Once you get over the shock of it all, and so. But I worked with her for a very long time, and it took a very long time before she went to prison. I like to say, man, you can change the world. You get in there, you didn't start the fire, as the Billy Joel song says, if you younger people know that song. This started way before you came along. But you have a window of opportunity to be in their life and to be a change agent and to say, what can I do on their journey to impart some compassion, some wisdom, some maybe new thinking skills, and new ways of looking at the world while they're going through on this journey. The journey may be up and out of the system, or the journey may be they're continuing on a path downwards, and we get them before they get to prison. But it's kind of like you can just see the writing on the wall. They're headed down in a hurry, and we still work with them no matter what place they're in, whether they're on the bottom and they're ready to change, or whether they're heading down. So I worked with this lady for a very long time, though she was violating probation regularly. She was falsifying her UAs. We sent her to inpatient treatment, the works, nothing stuck. So finally, we went back to court, and that was it. There was nothing else to kind of try. There was no rabbits we could pull out of a hat. And she went away to prison for 4 years. I think she's still there, last time I checked.
She's on parole.
She's on parole now? Okay, she's out. Nick checked on her. I didn't even check on her. It's funny. So, helping professions more, learning theories, how do people learn, what's the best way to reach them, looking at cultural issues, how can we reach people from different subcultures within our community, how can we communicate them?
Some of these too. What do you guys know about motivational interviewing? Have you guys talked about that in class? Anyone? No?
We've done a little bit of it at the courthouse,
Okay.
just like little classes
Okay.
on how to talk with vendors.
So pretty much, yeah, it's a way to communicate with clients, okay? They always tell us ORs, that's your basic MI right there. Open-ended questions, affirmations, reflections, summarizations. So when you're asking your client these close-ended questions, it feels like an interrogation, okay? And they'll close off, okay? Some people really respond well to those open-ended questions, and then that's how we kind of get more information out of clients by reflecting back to them those open-ended questions, the attaboys, the affirmations, just to show them that we're listening. So, does it work with everyone? No, it doesn't. And then there's strategies for behavioral change, which we do is we incentivize clients, and we use sanctions with clients. So we find out what means something to them. So for ISP clients, a huge incentive for one of them would be to skip an appointment because they meet with us weekly. We have to have 8 different, I want to say it's 8 contacts a month.
Contacts
Per month with them, whether it be a collateral contact, face-to-face, home visit, whatever, employment. So that means a lot to a client. Now sanction, there are some people where jail is a huge sanction for them, they don't like it. Okay. There are some people that they could do jail on their head. Actually, they could welcome jail. And then there are some people with sanctions, making them report 8:30 in the morning because they love to sleep till 2 o'clock in the afternoon because they've been watching Netflix all night. So you have to get creative with people. So those are two different things.
In piggybacking off of what Nick was talking about, strategies for behavioral change, we talk about what works. It's not, we start asking that question. It's not, and we do ask these other questions, what's the least expensive and all of those other things. But what works? Strategies for behavioral change, sometimes they get a trip to Walmart to get a pair of work boots as an incentive for showing up to their appointments on time, or something from our incentive closet, something very simple, maybe not so practical, maybe it's a CD or something like that. And people are going, what in the heck are you giving an incentive like that to a person that owes $2,000 that they stole from somebody else, and now you're giving them something? And that's the tension that we run into. The idea is, what works? When you were raised, most of us in a fairly functional home, you understood about incentives and sanctions. You knew what it was like to be rewarded for good behavior, get those attaboys and those kudos. You knew what it was like when you put that hand in the cookie jar and you got that discipline, right? These people never had that, a lot of them growing up. They didn't have that structure. So if we can start from ground zero and teach them something about incentivizing their good behavior or imposing a consequence, making it very real for them, it can bring about change. And there's whole science and art behind what works. What is what works? What works is evidence-based practices.
I have a question.
Yes.
When you said those individuals never had that growing up, what people are we looking at? Are these like rich, like that was never, punished or?
So let's, yeah, and so again, I think Nick and I are concentrating our presentation today on more that antisocial crowd that tends to have not had that structure growing up. However, it doesn't mean that we don't get those who had, there are those rare occasions when you get someone who comes from this perfectly functional background and they're just kind of more sociopathic. That happens. But as in all what works, it's not a life is art and science and not science. Life is about principles. If you raise your child this way, they will tend to turn out this way. Is that always 100%? Absolutely not. But provide them with love, structure, discipline, they're generally going to turn into productive citizens, okay? Most of the time. When they're raised in highly dysfunctional, drug-addicted parents who are giving them a bong, and they're not setting any limits, and mom's passed out on the couch, and their kids are running amok, they're going to grow up and they're going to be running amok. I mean, it's not rocket science, it's just kind of pretty simple. And that's kind of what the population that we deal the most with on probation. Oops, went backwards. So, thinking for a change, it's a cognitive skills program. Sometimes we'll just say COG. You'll hear us say, go to COG. And that's a cognitive skills course. That's the bigger umbrella. Under that falls all kinds of cognitive approaches. And thinking for a change is one of those. The goal today is to educate, maybe try to entertain a little bit. You're going to be participating. You've already done some participating in the conversation, and you will do more. You'll be up here presenting your work in a while. And then just try to provide you with a practical knowledge of what it's like working with people convicted of crimes. Is that all people? No, but a cross-section of people that we get most common on probation. Thinking for a change. It's a cognitive change program. It's about changing your thinking. It's rooted in cognitive behavioral therapy, and again, developed by the National Institute of Corrections. 8,000 corrections staff are trained in it. Nick and I have gone through the training courses and taught this for weeks at a time. We can try to get you these links. You can go on. This is public information. It's public domain. You can go on there and pirate material and you're not getting in any trouble. Cognitive behavioral theory and cognitive behavioral therapy. The idea in cognitive behavioral theory is that we can examine our thoughts and our thinking. And then cognitive behavioral therapy came out of that, which is a method that you can come up with and use to examine those cognitions or those thinkings. And Aaron Beck was the forerunner of all this, and CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, or cognitive behavioral theory, is what's used primarily in the military, what's used in corrections institutions across North America. Now, he started with treating depressed patients, and he's looking at depressed patients, and they had some things in common, these streams of negative thoughts, and these negative underlying beliefs about themselves. I'll never amount to anything, never get anywhere, I'm not smart, I'm not good at math, whatever it is, it's belief they have about themselves. And their belief about the world, their belief about their parents, their belief about those in authority, those belief about those who are not in authority, their belief about rich people, belief about poor people, just generally negative thoughts and attitudes and beliefs about themselves. He discovered that by helping them recognize and evaluate their thoughts and beliefs, that they could choose new ones and feel better about themselves and just generally be more happy. And this became known again as cognitive therapy or cognitive behavioral therapy. So, in looking at this and practicing it, he found, whoa, this doesn't just help depression, this can help a myriad of problems, conflict resolution, relationship problems, substance abuse issues, and so forth. And he developed all these kinds of approaches to addressing the most serious mental health issues. If I recall, and forgive me if I'm wrong, there's one of the big fathers of modern psychology that didn't believe in using medications. He believed that everything could be treated by looking at these thoughts. In fact, didn't say that that's okay, it was one of the biggies. So bear with me on being inaccurate. So now we're going to look at, so cognitive behavioral approaches in our world are trying to address criminogenic needs. So what is a criminogenic need? It's just a fancy word for things that contribute to criminal behavior for people. So it's their problems, it's their thoughts, it's their patterns of behavior that most predict future criminal behavior. So we have all these fancy assessments. They seem really fancy, but they're really practical. What they're doing is they're just looking at different areas of your life. And we go through questionnaires about what was your family like growing up? Do you have family support? And so forth and so on. And we find that the more things that there's a problem in, again, not rocket science, where there's more need and more dysfunction, these people are more likely to reoffend. So and we just put it all in an assessment. You guys could do the same thing. You have common sense. You can meet with somebody, talk with them for a while, understand how crazy everything was growing up, and you're going to go, and you're going to hear them and their attitudes and their defiance, and it's going to be pretty obvious. This person is more of a risk to reoffend than maybe this person over here. And so again, not rocket science, but a bunch of professionals that got high salaries got together and they put it all in a nice package for us and pump out a score so that we can kind of predict and kind of know what we're dealing with or assess what we're dealing with. Does this mean that people that have these needs won't make it? No, many of them do definitely. Again, the beauty of what we do is you get in their life at a certain point in their life and it's like goosebumps. They're ready to deal with life. And you can be that change agent and watch them transform before your eyes and start clicking. Things start clicking for them, and it's a beautiful thing to see. So we have what we call the top 4 criminogenic needs. These are the things that we would look at and we would say, oh my goodness, we're dealing with a tough one here. And that is this. We look at these history of antisocial behavior. Again, not rocket science. Past behavior is the biggest predictor of what? Future behavior. Not rocket science. They've got 3 felonies for assault and so forth, and DV. You know, factor out, okay, one of those was an unfair conviction, you know, but still, you know, and you look at that, it's not rocket science. Yeah, so, go ahead.
So antisocial personality patterns, what does that look like, guys? If you had to put a client in front of you that struggles with antisocial personality patterns, what does that person gonna look like? Don't all go at once.
Very close.
Okay,
Closed.
They can be very manipulative.
Good.
very good. What else?
Very dark, personality, a loner type, someone that doesn't really, just shut down very easily.
Okay. What else? Impulsive. So somebody that parking lot out here, they see a running car, doors unlocked, they get inside, they take it. Hey, the car was there, so that's that person's fault, they left their door unlocked. It was cold outside, I needed to warm up. The car was there, they just gave me the opportunity. That's how those kind of people think.
Antisocial attitudes.
Cognitions, what does that look like? What would you hear somebody with the antisocial attitudes, cognitions? That's a core belief that they have.
And for a little clarity, in this world, antisocial is not talking about the person who is a hermit and lives in a cave, like antisocial like that. We're talking about a set of beliefs about the world. So antisocial attitudes and cognitions.
Negative.
Negative.
Okay.
They kind of blame their situations on themselves.
That's perfect. Domestic violence offender. It's what I love to use this example. Domestic violence offender says, well, she wants to act like a man, I'll treat her like a man. That's an antisocial attitude cognition. So, very good.
Is it that type of person that believe the world owes them something as well?
Entitlement.
Very good. It's our e-comm centers.
Yeah, our economic crime probationers, it's just the way they operate and they think. What's yours is mine.
Could they also be an egocentric?
Absolutely. Extremely. You know, when we were doing our role play earlier, I'm talking about my dad and how you don't understand what it was like. So part of the art of being a probation officer is knowing how much was dad and kind of teasing that out, and how much was you're just being defiant and you're being manipulative. Because they've learned to milk that, you know what I'm saying? And you know, you see that in 2 and 3 and 4-year-olds, and sometimes you're like, whoa, how did they come up with this, you know, manipulative scheme, you know? Well, they just didn't maybe have a parent to check that when they were growing up, so they've learned how to milk that manipulative system. And so you are And forgive me, I'm sure if you have kids in here, your kids are perfect and they never were manipulated, they're 3 and 4 years old. But, so it's like, I'm trying to manipulate him with the idea that I was raised in a terrible home, a terrible environment, and play on his heartstrings. It didn't work very well. And yet, it was a bad upbringing. I was damaged, and that's why I worked with this one lady I told you about that went on to prison, is that she, not only was she involved in criminal behavior, but she was also a target for all kinds of people that took advantage of her, stole all her money, she was a victim herself. It was just a terrible thing to watch, her being victimized, and that's why it took such a long time, over 2 years working with her in all the craziness, and seeing her every week, before she ended up going off to prison. Because I could see, I just felt like we haven't done everything, and she's not out there killing people, so let's keep working with her, you know. And then, of course, antisocial associates and peers, you know, they're going to want to hang out with people and things like that, right? Pretty simple. So again, not rocket science, and assessing high risk and to reoffend, that's the top things. If they've got these, that's the riskiest group, riskiest population. Can they turn it around? Absolutely, or we wouldn't even have a job. We wouldn't be doing what we're doing. We wouldn't believe in it if we didn't think they could. Next 4, family, employment, lack of social activities. They're probably not on a bowling league. Probably not, or in a club that goes out and works on trails or whatever you want to say. They're not volunteering for the Boy Scouts typically. So looking at all these together, here's the mistake we've made in the criminal justice world for a really long time, very long time. We get stuck down here. They don't have a job. If they don't have a job, they're going to be tempted to steal. If they don't have a job, they're going to be, they're not going to have any money to go to their classes, and on and on and on it goes. So we get fixated on this. And
Why aren't these up here and these down here? What do you guys think? I mean, Wade kind of started talking about it, but why don't you guys think, like, substance abuse, that's a huge deal. If you have, you know, a heroin addict coming into your office, shouldn't that be something that you focus on?
Because it roots within like them and their own personality. Yeah, those are issues, but those are all the actions that they took because of their own personal things.
okay, so they're having problems down here because of stuff
Well, I would
here.
say you have to identify those and then you move to the
Okay.
actions.
All right.
So they're hanging out with other heroin addicts, and that's why the substance abuse is here.
Well, you gotta focus on the mindset first, and change your thinking
Okay.
before anything else will work, anything else matters.
Okay.
Because you can't have any of those without being successful and changing the things that started.
Okay.
I would probably say if you don't focus on, like, for example, antisocial behavior or personality patterns, then it'll be almost impossible to get them in a working situation. Because you have to focus on what could potentially be inhibiting them from getting a job in the first place.
Okay.
You're not talking about the root problem. Antisocial personality is the root problem, whereas substance abuse is kind of a surface level.
Okay. Insightful.
So watching and listening to what you're saying, I've met a lot of people that do the top 4 who've never been to jail.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
So,
yes, absolutely.
so,
And again, to be fair, we have these, okay? You and I have these.
Thank
So we're not being holier than thou up here. Matter of fact, we put our POs through COG for POs, and we're dealing with our own antisocial thinking and our antisocial thoughts and our beliefs about the world, so that we can help our people deal with those things. So you're right. why can't he, the problem might be not that he doesn't have a job. It's a belief. I'm entitled, and I don't want to work, and I deserve to get taken care of, even if I don't work, right? It's a belief system, it's values.
Or he can be told by society that he's worthless, never be able to get a job, never be stable enough to keep a job. So I'm looking at the negativity that society tell people in general. Well, you live over here, so you can't come over here, or you need to stay in your little box. So, you know, when I look at things like this, my question is always, what is society's role? Society, I look at when they go to prison or get arrested or go on probation, I see society then saying, well, since we set you up for failure by showing you these positive pictures of the American dream, but then we make it so far out of your reach to get the American dream, so now we're just gonna compound it and put you in all these programs, and then we're gonna try to help you weed your way out and hope that you make it and don't go back to prison. So I see it as a double standard. We tell them on one hand, you're not good enough. Then when they do something, then we'll punish them and say, well, you're bad, deviant behavior. So I'm just, you know, I look at this, and when I hear you speak, I see that all society faces this. Some just choose not to act on it, some choose to act on it, some just let them strain, get them where they go down that downward path. So I just always try to keep some balance when we're dealing with people, because like I said, I met plenty of people that fit all your top, but they got the job, they have a family, they're well educated.
They're smart enough not to get caught.
That's it.
Okay?
Thank you.
So those
That's what I wrote on my paper.
And those
That's
are the
what I wrote to the
hardest
top.
people, and those are the hardest people to work with when we do get them on probation.
And
It's
they
a
have
nightmare.
0 criminal history, and this is their first offense.
And they're considered low risk because their life is pretty much together. They're the hardest person to reach.
Those are some of my worst cases that I've ever had. First time domestic violence offender, okay? They just.
They have a beautiful wife, beautiful kids, a great job, so forth and so on. But this was never addressed growing up somehow, and for whatever reason. So when we speak in generalities, it's not like a stereotype in the sense that it has a discriminatory aspect to it. It's a stereotype in the sense that people who think certain ways, it's just pretty simple, are going to tend to act out in certain ways. It's not, and of course, absolutely you give the benefit of the doubt when they come into the office and you're talking to them. Of course you explore their trauma, their pain, and their victimization. Of course you do. Matter of fact, you're paid to do that. You're obligated to do that. If you don't do that and get them the help that they need for the trauma that they went through when they were kids and so forth and so on, you need to be out of this profession. It is a helping profession. But we're kind of focusing on identifying this to see how can we address it. And how we're addressing it is through these cognitive behavior theories. So again, why can't he keep a job? Because maybe there's a sense of entitlement and maybe a sense of that hey, you know, it's pretty good. He's 42. He's living in his dad's basement. He's got a big screen TV. Why should he go get a job, right? And you know, anytime that dad starts putting pressure on him, he puts a guilt trip on mom, and mom talks to dad, and pretty soon he's still living in the basement watching TV at 42 years old. Okay, so I mean, it just keeps going. Lack of and dad legitimately did treat him bad when he was growing up, so it just keeps going. So what do we do to break that cycle? And that's what we're looking at today. He can't keep a job because when he goes, it's a take this job and shove it attitude, and he gets fired. Talked about this before. In the 80s, they came up with this big thing. It's employment, right? They put all the prisoners through this big welding program, got them all equipped, got jobs all lined out at $30-something an hour. Pretty sweet, right? Got 100 of them or something. I don't think it was 6 months. They were all gone. Everyone been fired. We think that this is it. No, it's this. It's this. We need to work on this so that when they go get that $30 welding job, and their boss gets on them for showing up 10 minutes late, that they don't just say F it and walk the hell out of there, right? So we gotta work on this at the same time that we try to help them with this stuff out there. Now, if they're just tripped out all the time, it's really hard to work with them. It really is. And so you do need to have some crisis intervention, but we just spend a lot of time doing that. Thinking for a change. Let's start looking at this a little more. It's a program. It has 3 parts. It's over 25 weeks. And you're getting a sneak peek at that. Social skills, problem-solving skills, and cognitive restructuring, and that's what we're going to focus on today. Cognitive restructuring. You learn to become an unbiased, impartial, and neutral observer of your own thoughts and your own feelings and your own belief system. The idea is that you get it away from you and you look at it objectively and so forth. And when you learn to identify the thoughts and thinking patterns that are most likely to lead you into trouble or harming others. So we call these risk thoughts. The thoughts that are most likely to get you into trouble. So what are the thoughts you're having right before you get into an argument with a friend? What are the thoughts you're having? And you know it. You know when it's coming, right? You know when your button was pushed and you're going to say too much and you're going to go too far and you're going to regret it after and you're going to go into a big guilt cycle because you went off, right? You didn't handle yourself very well. So we're looking at that really objectively. Those thoughts you were having, those buttons, we're looking at those. What's going to set you off? What's going to get you to say something you'll later regret? And if you don't regret it, maybe you need to look back at that top 4. Then we can choose new ways of thinking, which are less likely to result in negative consequences. This stuff, cognitive restructuring. Once we look at all those thoughts and everything, and we examine it all, we can even be liberated and empowered to focus on different kinds of belief systems. Put an emphasis on different things. An example of how that can change. Loyalty, right? Beautiful value. You're loyal. Can loyalty get you into trouble? Okay, talk about that.
For example, if you're in a game, if you're loyal to the game, then you won't hesitate to commit some sort of criminal act.
Okay. Loyalty, any other ideas? Very good. Loyalty, can it get you into trouble?
I think even there's loyalty within some families of, like you were saying, some kids, they grow up and their parents are doing drugs, and there's almost that encouragement and that loyalty of, oh, I have to be like my parents, I have to make them happy, so I'm going to do this as well.
Okay, so you've got a perfectly good value, right? Loyalty, we'd all sign up and say, I'm loyal, I want to be loyal, right? So it's looking at this, empowered to focus on different. I know that loyalty, for me, can get me into a lot of trouble, and I'm tired of it. Because it makes me be loyal to things that I probably shouldn't be loyal to, right? And so I'm going to learn to focus on something different. So now I'm going to be loyal to my children and to their upbringing rather than to my peers and associates or to my nuclear family growing up that wasn't so functional. And I'm going to break from some of that and I'm going to shift my focus. Still loyalty, still a beautiful value, but I'm going to shift focus. I'm going to emphasize something different. And we make these unbiased observations using a tool. And that tool is a thinking report. And Nick brought those thinking reports today and he's going to hand them out.
I thought you had those. Because I texted you back yesterday that I couldn't do it.
What do you mean you texted me that?
I have it right here on my cell phone. You texted me and said, can you make the copies? And I told you I was at the office. I have other stuff going on.
Yeah, You think it's funny, but seriously, I ask you to do one thing.
Let's not do this. I'm serious, let's not do this here. If we need to talk about it outside, let's talk about it, but let's not.
You know,
do this.
I'm sick of putting it all under the board and not talking about it. No, if you got the guts, we'll talk about it right here.
You know what? You turned into a dick since you've been in so good. And people may be laughing, but it is true. You used to be cool when you were an officer and when we were together. No, man, it ain't cool now. You've turned into a complete dick the way you've been acting.
Yeah,
You have this holier than thou attitude. It's like you're a judge now. You have that robe on.
and I hear you've been running around telling everybody I'm a dick too.
But you know what? You're right. And I'm telling you to your face right now. Guess what? I don't need to do this presentation with you. You need me more than I need you.
It's,
Okay?
it's
So
obvious
see you
that
later.
I don't need you. Check out.
That's funny.
Forgot my keys.
Emily, couldn't just stay on. Now, you guys saw us do a role play earlier today, so we kind of let the cat out of the bag. Usually we do that with no introduction, and my poor interns are crawling under the table. Watching me.
Actually, it got so intense last year, the camera was turned off. The camera got turned off and cut off just because it was like, ooh, these two people.
We got so uncomfortable. What was that argument about?
Misunderstanding.
Some misunderstanding.
Lazy blame.
Okay.
Lack of accountability.
Lack of accountability. Okay. So when it about copies though, I mean, wasn't the situation that I thought he should have brought the copies? I still need copies. What are you talking about? I'm just thinking, what? Copies aren't important just because we're having fun here? No. We got an argument about copies. Is that what the argument was about?
No.
No.
What?
We talk about power.
Copies. You're just walking across campus, minding your own business, or driving through the parking lot, minding your own business, obeying the rules, somebody cuts you off. Pretty soon, I'll give you a tour one. Pretty soon, two students are out in the parking lot, duking it out, or about to get into it. Is it about somebody cutting somebody off in traffic? Seriously? Really? That's what this is about?
You said something about power. Tell us more about that.
I mean, it started from the copies, but that's not really what it's surrounding. The whole, it was basically, you felt like since he became, you know, he was much cooler when he was an officer, but now that he got promoted, he turned to this, you know, yeah. So that was basically.
so freely,
so
off your lips.
So it's just like everything just came out, like, oh, that's really what it's about, you know what I mean, so.
So he feels what? What is his attitude and belief? What is his belief about me?
I think his belief about you is that you don't recognize him, and even when he tries, like, you don't recognize the acts that he does and what he's trying, when he's trying, and so then he's gonna portray you as, oh, just being this dick that is so much higher, when really it's all of the root of him wanting to feel recognized in the work that he does.
Okay. So it's this underlying belief that he's carrying into it about me since I become a Zoom button. And then that belief that he's not being treated fairly, he's being underappreciated. And it's a belief that he thinks he's entitled to be treated a certain way.
And that's the same thing that goes on with these offenders. The same what I mean? They don't feel like, it's kind of like that mindset, you know, that they feel like, okay, I'm not treated a certain way because you're in this position, you feel like, you know, I have to bow down to you, you know what I mean, that kind of, it's just,
You're beautifully connecting the dots.
On the right track.
And that's where we're headed. I think you had also started talking about that kind of that it's not about the copies, it's about something deeper. Was that you? Sorry, I think you did. So can you talk more about that?
Not really.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of like we just have several small incidents or small thoughts that just start to build. You start to think of all of them as one mass, and that's just sort of how you start viewing this person in such a negative way. That something as small as forgetting copies just drives you to verbally or even physically attack.
Exactly. It's these, what are these risk thoughts? What are these thoughts that are most likely to lead me into trouble? Going back, patterns of thinking that are most likely to lead us into trouble. Now, look, I mean, I really, you know what doesn't set me off very much at all? When people treat me like I'm less than. That just doesn't, it's not something that sets me off. When people are real confrontational, it doesn't, I'm not the type of person that gets confrontational back. That's just not me, okay? But there are certain things that for me, because I have some beliefs about the world, one of my beliefs is I have a very strong work ethic, and I'm kind of a maniac that way. And when I perceive that this person is lazy and they just don't want to work on it, I can go off, and I can go off in a big way. What have you seen me do?
Curfew checks. Wade goes up to the gentleman's house. Gentleman has been looking for a job, knocks on the door, they get into a conversation. Guy hasn't been looking for a job. Conversation escalates quick to a yelling match between Wade and this guy.
Slight exaggeration.
No, it was a yelling match.
Was it?
I'm done. I'm like, yelling for Wade is, yes, but having to,
Maybe
end that
a
curfew
little.
check was.
let me see, you had a very strict upbringing, but
No, I had actually a pretty permissive upbringing, but I was modeled for me. The work ethic was very much modeled for me. My parents were pretty permissive, actually. I wish they had tightened up a little bit. It would have saved me from getting into some trouble. But I had this extreme work ethic. You know, we have our things, right? You know, our strengths and our weaknesses, and it's a strength for me. But it's also something that can get me into trouble, right? It's a belief. It's a work ethic. Isn't that a beautiful thing? Can't we all agree on loyalty is a beautiful thing? You know, but it can get me into trouble because it sets me off, and it can cause me not to have compassion for somebody that really needs compassion in this moment. He's 42 years old. His dad came in at 2 o'clock in the morning. He needs some compassion for me because he's living in his dad's basement and he won't get off his ass. It's a push-button issue for me, and it can set me off. So I have to be very careful. And as you grow, and as you learn, and as you become an officer, working with different populations, and as you just grow in life in general, you learn what those things are, right? And you know when not to go there, and you examine your thinking, and you look at it so that you don't go there. We use a tool called the thinking report. It's a way to pay attention or examine our thinking. It's a tool we use. And in Thinking for a Change courses, we talk about social skills and other things, and then we start moving on and advancing that into thinking reports. Thinking reports, each week, they have to come with homework. They have to look at something they did, as you'll see on your thinking report, where they broke a rule or hurt someone, and bring that situation, write a thinking report about it, present it in front of the class. As facilitators, we have to do the same thing. We do our homework. And if you're going to be a facilitator or anything like this, it's going to be the real deal. You can't just come in talking about how I broke the speed limit 5 miles an hour. No, no speeding. Today, you're gonna work on ticket reports. Speeding's not gonna be it, unless you're doing 85 in a school zone, and we can use it. But it's for real, it's for real. It's problems I'm having with my supervisor. It's problems I'm having at home. And we bring our thinking reports, and we work right alongside them, examining our feelings and our thinking. And by the end of this thing, you want to talk about loyalty? Talk about loyalty, the great thing about the population we work with. These people in this class, if they can make it through 25 weeks of this, they are so loyal to you, and they've seen you as an officer and seen who you are, and they're so loyal to the scary point. Anybody messing with you, Wade? I'll take care of it for you. If you do it, you know, it's like, no, it's okay. You don't need to go. Take care of it. I'll be fine. You know, and it's like, but there's that loyalty, right? It's that loyalty. And this helps you see who you are and how you think. This helps others see who you are and how you think. And that produces a bond. When you're working with a narcissistic group of people, and I'm not saying they all are, by any stretch of the imagination, they've got to start caring about someone, right? Somewhere. And you might be, as their officer, the first person who they've ever thought, I care about what Wade thinks of me. I want to please. And that's just that crack to open them into the world of empathy and care for other people. And then you can build on that. So Nick talked earlier about motivational interviewing, those affirmations. It's taking these things that we do naturally as humans, creating a program around them, using it as a tool, what works with people, how can you reach them. If it's disingenuous and you don't have a heart for this, it's not the profession for you. That's okay. That's okay. There's something else out there for you. That's all right. Probation might not be for you. So when we talk about internships, come and find out if that's something that you think, a direction you want to go. And that's all right. So we're going to pay attention to our thinking. We're going to look at that first. And I think your report looks like this. Here they'll state the situation. They'll list all their thoughts before the bad thing that they did happen. It says time you hurt someone or broke a rule, right? Did you guys read your thinking report? Before you broke the rule. List your feelings before the bad thing happened. List your attitudes and beliefs behind what happened. Okay? Now, why are we looking at this? Why are we looking at the thoughts before it happened? Thoughts you were having right before it happened.
So you want them to be able to identify what their trigger will be before.
Yeah, those thoughts, that when I start thinking this way, guess what? When I start thinking this way, before. Again, we make the mistake of thinking about all the repercussions of what happened after we did something we shouldn't have done, right? Dude, when we said that hurtful thing, when we went a little too far in the argument, got a little too animated, whatever it was, got too intense, and we beat ourselves up about it, or we try to justify it and talk it away and how it happened. We don't look at what led us into that problem in the first place, caused us to do that in the first place. We examine that, hey, that might be the ticket, that might be something different. Otherwise, it's just a guilt cycle, you know, right? You screw up, you get in trouble, you feel bad or terrible, you damage relationships, but you don't deal with what's happening before you got in trouble. And it happens again, and pretty soon, you're in handcuffs. I'm just joking. Maybe not handcuffs, but you lost a good friend. Lost a good support system. You got a strained relationship with your mom, and now she's suffering because you don't take the grandkids over as often, right? Sorry, I'm a different generation. I'm anticipating grandkids. We got two boys that are 27 and 24 and married and hopefully soon.
I'll give you 4 grandchildren you can take.
Yeah.
I'll give you 4 grandchildren you can
So it's
take.
not everything it's cracked up to be,
Oh.
is what you tell me? Your attitudes and beliefs, what was driving that? What's that bigger belief Nick had about me and why that copy turned into a bigger deal than what it had to be? It's just copies, right? So let's break this down. Situation. Who was involved and what was said and done? Short, objective, facts, just the facts. Have you ever heard that story? But wait, you don't understand. It was like this, and they're giving all the situations behind, why they did what they did, right?
Think of it this way. Think of it as describing it in a way of everyone in the room can agree on it. Everyone can agree on it. So, if I were to give this situation in regards to the copies, Wade was being a jerk and blaming me for not making the copies. Can we all agree on that? So yes. Anyone? Come on. I can see some head nods. Yeah? Yeah? No?
Does anybody not agree with that? Wade was being a jerk and is he to make copies? You don't agree?
Pretty objective, I mean, like, the facts were, he asked you to get the copies, didn't have the copies, and he responded.
Wade was being a jerk. You forgot how to key in part. That was perfect. That was a
So
perfect way.
where are we at? Was what he's saying short, objective, facts, just the facts about this copy thing?
No, because he's saying that you were also a jerk. If you just said that we had a miscommunication on the copies, that would have been it.
Can everybody agree on that? A miscommunication about who was going to... I knew, as a matter of fact, that he didn't have those copies. I actually brought the copies because I knew he wouldn't get off his ass and do the copies. So I was just provoking him up here. You know what I'm saying? So I really was being a jerk, but he doesn't need to know that right now. Right? So maybe that's not objective completely. Maybe I didn't know. So Wade, so what do we have as facts here? What happened? What's facts?
So why he couldn't just be in the mindset that you just wanted him to do his job and not take it personal, you asking him, did he have what he should have had, since, you all have been role playing or doing this for so long. It's just certain things that people should know that they should do
Right.
in order for you to be able to fulfill your task.
So what is not objective, and I'm not picking on you. Let me tell you this. Let me back up just a sec. We're going to talk about thinking reports, and when we do, we are going to challenge you, okay? We're going to do that. And we're going to try to be as nice as we can, but it can get a little sticky. Matter of fact, we did this at a campus engagement a couple years ago in the main auditorium, and I didn't preface it this way. I didn't kind of talk about how people were going to be challenged in front of the group. And so we had a young lady come up who had, in our objective opinion, had really just assaulted a guy. And we started talking about that. And so by the time we were done, tears and storming out and slamming the door. So I do want you to know that that we may challenge some thinking a little bit, so please bear with us and have patience with us. So that was very good. What might not have been quite objective about what she said? Did you hear the word? There's one word. Should have. Yeah, that should. There's some things you should expect. He just should have done it. And that's, again, is that objective? He should have.
Well, again, it was a misunderstanding because Nick started off saying that he sent you something, you see? So that's where he assumed that you knew that he didn't have it because he
Okay.
sent you, he was justified.
So now my next thinking would be, how many times before have he not provided what was needed
All
for
the
what you
time,
need to do.
all the
So-
time, that's what drives me nuts.
So could it have been, he got in his feelings, instead of sticking with the facts of, this is part of my job, this is what I need to do, so let me make sure that I have everything that I need. So if it happens, he forgets something, it's not a pattern of repeat, because that gets frustrating if you gotta tell somebody all the time what they have to do like they just started it on that day.
Right, right. So again, what you're identifying beautifully is an attitude and belief that you have about an expectation you have on Nick, that by now, he should get it through his thick skull that he should have had the copies ready for the class,
Because
right?
he done forgot the
Right.
copies 20 times.
And he's done that, and these aren't the only copies he's forgotten.
She said 20 times.
Oh my gosh, it just happened here, we went from 1 to 20 here.
That's what I'm saying. The situation dictates, because if it's 20 times of the same repeat behavior, in essence with your example of the guy that sits on the couch, his dad, 42 years old, he's been doing this, let's just give him a little bit of time. Say it took him 25 years to actually start trying to do something. So you got 25 years versus 42, which is 17 years, where he's actually did nothing. That will frustrate anyone. So I'm thinking it has to do with your example of your thinking. Before you
Right.
get yourself in a situation, how many times have you saw the buildup and you didn't rethink your thinking
Right.
to change
So
that?
I saw the buildup. I saw, look, listen. I can feel it coming, right? He's 42 years old. He's still living in his mom and daddy's basement. Still making excuses for his behavior. I can feel it coming. I can feel that I'm about to be done with this guy. But I could do some real harm, right?
Yeah.
Right? I could do some real damage. Because this guy's dad used to sneak in the middle of the night at 2 in the morning. So I gotta watch that. Gotta watch it. Careful.
But at the same time though, you still have to analyze that person that lives in the basement at 42, because you never know what happened along the way in life. Maybe that person was a productive citizen, something just happened, and it caused a setback in life. So you really can't, generalize like that. So,
Exactly. So this is why we do this as officers. Is we're trying to get it out there, figure out what our buttons are, what our patterns of thinking, our beliefs are about a situation, so that we don't get ourselves into that kind of judgmentalism or whatever, and then we treat this guy fairly, right? Exactly. So let's get back to focus on that. What is objective? Let's try it one more time. What's objective about this argument that we had? Short, objective, facts, just the facts. What happened?
Just saying what happened and not really making excuses of like why it happened, just saying what
Okay, so what happened?
happened. You guys got in an argument about copies.
Okay. Can we agree on that? Was it an argument though? I mean, can we all agree that it was an argument? Raise your hand if you think it was an argument. So some people don't think it was an argument. Okay. So why don't you think it was an argument? Tell me.
Well, it started out as a discussion, you're asking for something, and then it escalates to an argument.
Okay, so it is an argument. Was it an argument? Can we all agree? It was not. Don't agree with me, please. I'm leading you down the road. Don't agree with me if you disagree.
Difference of opinions.
Difference of opinion. So it wasn't really an argument. It's a difference of opinion. Okay.
I might say like a confrontation, because though it was an argument sometimes, it ultimately was, you were confronting him about copies, and then he was confronting you about your change of personality. So it was more just this big confrontation that just really got out of control.
Okay. All right.
What about deflecting?
Some deflecting in there. You were just on me. Just take responsibility for the copies. So what are we doing here? We're trying to say, again, we're in a criminal justice class, right? We want to talk about what do you do when you come up on a scene and you get all the stories? You gotta tease it out, right? You gotta write this police report. What were the facts of what happened? How can you say it objectively about what happened during this crime or this incident? And you gotta take all this stuff and read through it and figure out facts, just the facts, right? Now, I would say, in general, we can all agree that maybe it wasn't an argument, but it got pretty heated. Can we all agree on that? Started getting heated?
Yes.
We're pretty close. Okay, all right. So we had a heated exchange about the copies. Is that getting close? Getting close? So give me close. What would you say?
I argument,
Okay, argument.
but I mean heated discussion. I was just kidding.
Heated discussion, okay. Argument. So I think that's good. I think that's getting very close. And we can all kind of objectively agree that it got that way. Now, is that still a little bit subjective? Yes. So that just shows you how hard. Because in Nick's home growing up, what we had was not an argument. That was just another day, that was the breakfast discussion. You know what I'm saying? They walked away just not even, he walked away from the breakfast table not even thinking that anything even happened. That was nothing. For me, that was just a knockdown, drag-out argument, and I was like all tore up over it after, and I'm going to have to go talk to my counselor about it. You know what I'm saying? Because it's so bad. So again, the reason argument is a little bit subjective still, even at that, even though we all agree, is because from his perspective, the way he was raised, it's not another day at the office. That's who you might be working with someday. That's just what they understand. And until you get heated, they don't listen to you because they don't think it's any big deal. And you can't get sucked into that trap. You'll get sucked in. That's just another day at the office. That's what they do. They don't even think it's a, right? Thoughts? And the thinking report. You've got it in front of you. That is a list of every thought you had using the exact words that were in your mind at the time. Why do we have this? Thoughts without judging one.
Usually intense thoughts before you assault someone.
Okay. What were you really thinking before you did what you did? Before you broke that rule or hurt someone in some way, either verbally or however. But you're not going to judge them and justify them in the thinking report. You're just putting them out there. Objectively observing what thoughts did you have. Well, I thought I wanted to slap that. Biatch, whatever. No, okay. What? And so, you know what I'm saying? But it's because they did this and this and this and this and anybody in the same position. No, just put the thought. What were you thinking before you did what you did and said what you said? It's everything that led you into trouble, right? Exact words. So that's what we do in a thinking report, and that's what we tell our probationers to do. And you think Nick and I can get a little, edgy? No. They put some things that will scare the hell out of you. Oh yeah. Things that are going through their mind. Scare the hell out of you. Make you go, okay. I thought there was hope here, but now I'm thinking prison. You know what I'm saying? I'm thinking prison, and fast. Before we all die. Okay, feelings. You're gonna list the feelings you were having. Nick, what were some of the feelings you were having?
I was pissed off.
Okay. Good.
I was mad.
Okay. You don't like me.
This is the hardest thing for clients to come up with because they have two feelings: pissed off, mad.
Angry,
Oh, sorry, angry. I forgot that one.
frustrated, hostile. Why? And now we're dealing with primarily a male population in these programs, in Thinking for Change.
Why is it hard for them to go with their feelings?
Yeah, and why is it only just different terms for angry?
Because growing up, boys wasn't shown to express their feelings, you know,
Okay.
because if they express it, they'll be seen as weak if they cry.
Okay, so they have an attitude and belief about, they have a belief system about crime. So nobody's ever really taught, they've never taught themselves to expand beyond anger.
Maybe they don't understand the feelings they're having either.
Okay.
Like they only understand anger, they don't understand like confusion or whatever.
They can wrap their mind around that.
Could be a defense mechanism for whatever led them to that point in their life.
Oh, getting in the class in the first place or into that argument?
Any of it.
Defense mechanism. So what is a defense mechanism? It's like this wall or this barrier or this way of reacting to responding to the world. It's a way of defending yourself. If I express anger, they won't hurt me. They won't get to me. I won't have to think about Dad coming in at 2 in the morning. Right? I can just be angry. It works for me. There can be either emotions or bodily sensations. So that's also what we put on our thinking report. It's that because for guys that only know one feeling, I mean, eventually you can loosen it up, okay? And they'll start admitting to other feelings. But we want them to start kind of paying attention to what's going on in their body. And if you go to a class on de-escalation and how to de-escalate conflict, that's one of the primary things you'll learn is that to tell Nick, why are you breathing so heavy? You know, do you see yourself? Do you see your clenched fist? And just helping them be aware of what they're looking like and bring the tone that they have will de-escalate them because they're getting out of that and they're getting in their head and out of their emotions, right? So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get them to see all those warning signs. Warning signs. So one word descriptions that seem right to you. No judgment. Now we're helping them. We help. That's why we get them up for the class. We go through it and we ask the class, okay, what are some other feelings that this guy might be having? And then that helps them. So we give them this cheat sheet to help them. It's really cool. They get so excited. It's like you go down through, oh, this is the one, you know. And it gives them language. It's not that they don't feel them, they're just not language of feelings before. And this is helping them learn a new language. It gets it going. We're not all here. They like some of these.
A lot of them depend on this shit too.
Oh, yeah.
This is like their lifeline throughout the entire class. Because a lot of them don't know how to express their feelings.
I had a question, like, in regards to these, you were referring to them, like, presenting this in front of the class, and you also doing the same thing, working together. Do you feel with this audience that it would be more advantageous to do more of a one-on-one thing? Like, when they're in front of the class, are they they just, like, stand off? Like, do they participate in the beginning, or is it easy to get them to participate in this class setting?
So the answer is yes. The answer is yes.
It can be challenging at times when the class first starts. Everyone's very, kind of like today. Everyone was very quiet. No one really wanted to say anything. And then as time went on, people start loosening up. People start talking more, participating more. It's the same exact thing.
And when you're, yep.
So why, I'm sorry, well, why do everything always have to start with a negative connotation to it? Like I'm looking at it and I see lots of angry, aggressive, can't really see a couple up to the top, but the influence is saying be angry or be aggressive. In opening the door, and then I see further down, you have some that, the hard eyes, the smiley face, I can't really see it.
And the thing is, it's just listed off alphabetically.
Oh,
So angry, and then happy is right here,
oh, okay,
love struck.
okay.
So it's just in alphabetical order.
Oh, okay, that's what I'm missing. Okay.
Yeah, no rhyme or reason. Now let me say that we're dealing with a criminal population. That's been in a lot of trouble, and they're the real deal by the time they get to Nick and I, okay? By the time they get to Nick and I, they've been given lots of chances, all right? And I'm not talking about low-risk offenders that are just got in trouble and they were just stupid, okay? I really thought when I got into probation, there were gonna be a whole lot of people like me. And they just did something stupid, and they had a moral lapse, and if I could just provide a little accountability and a little help and referral here and there, they'll be like me, right? They'll respond and they'll get their life together like you and me, like we do when we get when we make a mistake, we get a little whack upside the head, or we get a little encouragement, and we come to terms with what we did. We change our behavior, right? No. That is like this small of the population. Matter of fact, most people get a deferred sentence and they're not on probation at all when they start out. And they maybe have some treatment to go through, or some classes, or some community service to do, and some money to pay back, and that's it. We will never see them. 90% or 50% or whatever of those people, we won't see them. By the time they end up on intensive supervision and they're in a COG class, no. These are long-term patterns of behavior. These aren't people that just made a mistake and now they just need a leg up. Okay, I wish that were true, but it's not. And your eyes are open, and then you're like, whoa, what did I sign up for? I thought. Yeah.
So at this point now we're using judgment. We're actually judging them since they've gotten to you guys.
Right. Look, the criminal justice system, there's judging and judgmental, right? There's two different things. I hope I'm not judgmental. I hope I believe that people can change. I hope that I believe, in general, there's a few sociopaths out there. Yes. And we've had them on our case list that we were afraid of. Okay? We were afraid of. And we tried not to let them know we were afraid of them, but we were afraid. When we walked out of the car, we're looking for the car coming down the road to sideswipe us, Okay, there are people we are afraid of. They need to be in prison. They just do in this society. And we are making a judgment. This person is dangerous. They need to go away. That's what modern society is all about, is deciding this person's dangerous. At some point, it's hard to be so counterculture here, but at some point, we have to decide there's too much risk. They need to go away. Do we make mistakes? Yes. Do we always get it right? No. Should we be ashamed of ourselves when we don't get it right? Yes, we should. And we should work everything we can to get it right. But still, at the end of the day, eventually, it's not whether Dad snuck in at 2 in the morning. They are still not conforming to the norms of society and hurting people, doing damage to others. For the sake of justice and the victim, we have a criminal justice system and they go away. So we are making judgments, meaning we're thinking about where they're at in life, we're thinking about their upbringing, we're thinking about their risk and need, and we get them in a program such as on probation with us.
Question.
Mm-hmm.
So basically your program is like a last resort.
It tends to be a last resort. At least the intensive supervision part is the last resort of probation. It doesn't mean there's not other programs out there. You've heard of community corrections, for instance, right? So that's more like the halfway house level where they go, and it's a little more what we call structured and punitive in a sense. It has more of a little bit more of a punitive approach. We would be the last rung on our ladder, basically. And many people will go from our program, like an intensive program, to prison. They would skip community corrections just because we find out, hey, it's usually because they reoffend. It's not because they don't make it to our program. Otherwise, we keep trying in some communities.
So my question is then, let's say you have 10, what do you call them, offenders?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, we use the word probationers. Typically, we don't use offender in our realm anymore because we do feel like that's a label, and we're trying to not use that.
Right.
We still use it in the terms of a DV, domestic violence offender, or a sex offender. We're trying as best we can to swing, and some people are going the way of client. I can't bring myself to say client yet, I don't use that, because they are forced to be on probation, and the threat is handcuffs. They're not a client, okay? So in my view, I can understand why people call them clients, and I'll catch that coming out of my mouth occasionally.
I call them clients.
He calls them clients. I'm fine with it. I mean, I'm fine with it. I just don't want to. I just don't want this that be the mindset. You know what I'm saying? It's a mindset. I can see why we use that term because we're professionals and we're working with people.
So my question is, out of 10 probationers, what percentage would you say successfully go through your program?
These are. I mean, okay. So it's a very. This is not an easy answer, but the short answer is for lower risk offenders and DUI offenders and all that, it's like 90-some-odd% success rate, you know, that they won't reoffend while they're on probation and they'll successfully complete. For IFP, maybe or less. Using that, domestic violence, 50% success rate.
It's not extremely high,
Yeah.
I'd say. But and I kind of want to back up to your question about judging. So the view about being a PO is you can run your caseload and you can treat people however you want to be treated. For me, when I get somebody in my office, like Wade said, I'm your last person that you're going to be dealing with in this office, okay? So first appointment, one thing that was taught to me by another officer is that first appointment, they walk out of that office feeling like they have dignity. Okay, you don't sit there, you don't confront them, put them down, say, well, this is what the police report said, this is accurate. No, the way I deal with people are, okay, tell me in your own words why you're sitting in this chair. And I let the people tell me. I don't sit there, I don't confront them about any sort of, like how their victim felt or what the police report said, because they get their chance to tell their side of the story, okay? And they feel they leave my office feeling that sense of dignity, and they feel like, okay, somebody is hearing me. Now, from that point forward, we work together. I make sure to let them know we're working together as a team, okay? I'm just the middleman between you and the judge right now, trying to get you out of the system, but hey, let's try to work on some skills here. Let's try to work on some of these behaviors that haven't worked out well for you in the past. All right, let's start working on some of these beliefs that you have. Hey, let's talk about victims. How did your victim feel? I'm the victim. Okay, who else do you think was victimized by a crime? I just got caught for drugs. Okay, what about your daughter? Just simple things and just planting those seeds. That's all we're trying to do as POs is just plant those seeds and just try to help them so they don't end up in the system again. And they actually start changing some of those antisocial thoughts to prosocial.
We have a mission in the criminal justice system. It's to keep people out of prison and to help them become law-abiding citizens. So when I say out of prison, it's really not the goal to keep them out of prison. I mean, that sometimes has become a goal. Let's keep them out of prison. No, our goal is to help them become productive members of society so they won't victimize people. Prison is just, if we shift where it's just about keeping people out of prison, then we've got problems because we're not addressing the problems, you know. No, it's about reformation of society, reformation of character. It's about addressing antisocial thinking and patterns. It's about helping them get the help that they need because dad's not getting it to them in the morning. It's about that. And if we can do that, then maybe they'll stay out of prison. Keeping them out of prison is a wonderful byproduct of the work that we do. And we're proud of ourselves when we are able to pull it off. But I'm not proud if they haven't changed anything, they're just going to turn around and axe murder somebody. I've not addressed anything. Because they're going to get out of prison usually eventually.
So it's about individuality and not caseload. You just don't lump everybody into one.
Absolutely
Take
not.
Absolutely not.
individual-
Everyone has a different case plan. Everyone has a different treatment plan. You know,
There's similarities, of course.
There are some, but the way I treat Wade is going to be different than how I treat my kid. So, and you're constantly putting on different hats. Every single
Appointment.
Every single
And
point.
we exaggerated it here, where he went back from he went to psychotherapist, Freudian style, to going into my early childhood, to the extreme, you know, get against the wall and caught because you tested positive for meth and it's over and we're done with it, you know. So yes. Now, we're not psychotherapists. Okay, now many of us in probation are therapists and do have a background in counseling and those types of professions, but no, this, by the time it gets into dad snuck into the room, you know, no, that's not us. You know, we're going to send them on to somebody who can help them and has professional training in that area. Okay, so we're that triage or that first line of thinking, identifying problems and getting them the help that they need. We can't go this you know. Some probation officers are skilled enough to do it, don't get me wrong, and they could do it, absolutely. But it's understanding, we have huge caseloads and we can only do so much.
So therefore, when they're with you, you have to be an active listener, not an active talker, but an active listener to listen for keywords and different things.
Ding, ding, ding.
Motivational interviewing.
We have a purpose, we have a goal, we have an objective, and that's to work on this antisocial thinking, those big four, identify those patterns of that thinking, and to see if we can address that, because we know that's what works. If they can change some of those things, they'll stay out of the system, or have their best chance of getting out of the system. Do we fail? Could we do better? Yes, we could. And for people like me, and a lot of people in probation, you know, we frankly try too hard. I mean, we stand on our head, we do backflips, we do cartwheels. We play good cop, we play bad cop, we're like therapists.
There will be times where a judge will yell at us and say, why didn't you bring this person back to me sooner?
Right.
You are working harder than they are.
Why did you let them get away with so much before they're in front of me? Because I'm ready to be done with this stuff. They're a risk to the society, we've been taking too much time putting up with this crap. And that's my tendency, not all probation officers. But that's the beauty of probation, is that we can incorporate all different kinds of personalities. My style will reach, here's the sad thing, my style will reach some people, keep them out of prison. But there's certain people that my style and my approach will not work so well for, and they'll end up in prison, okay? I can't help that. Now we try, like Nick ended up with that guy that we was talking about before because other people couldn't handle him. Nick could handle him on probation as best he could. He still ended up in prison. So sometimes it's their choices ultimately that get them there. And again, we didn't start the fire. We got to give up at some point and say, too big.
Question, for somebody like that, because they've been on the system for so long, you know, over and over.
Surprisingly, he wasn't.
Yeah, he wasn't.
He wasn't in the system.
He wasn't.
He was not in the system.
He'd been military. He'd been very
Started
successful.
military, when he got out of the military, went into, became a biker, did tattoos, very, he had some minor stuff, I say some minor traffic, maybe some protection orders, which is a huge red flag, protection orders, because when you're getting a restraining order against you, there's something going on there. But I want to say that was his first felony, and he did not have a lot. So, like we said, there are some people that are just, they're that good to where they don't get caught for a long time, and then they finally get caught, and that's why the true colors come. So,
And some of them never get caught, or they're in a society where that type of behavior is not, you know, frowned upon very much by those in authority. And so they just get away with it. I mean, we know that from domestic violence, right? I mean, for generations in this country, you know, she didn't do what I wanted her to. So I slapped her. Okay, well, yeah, that's understandable. All right,
Sex offenders.
yeah. Years in this country, people burping on their family. Well, let's stay out of it. No, let's create any problems. It's none of our business.
Look at these guys in group, and when they have to do their treatment and with victims, they have 20+ victims. So I mean, it's,
So some of this stuff, people get away with it because society doesn't value and doesn't think that what they're doing is all that bad, right? But fortunately, we've come into a little more enlightenment about domestic violence, and we're starting to deal with this stuff, right? Thank God. And sex offenders.
So what about Bill O'Reilly? He's a public figure that no one seems to blink an eye. You know, I'm just gonna go there. Like Bill O'Reilly, he's a public figure that people look up to, and it's like he's going from one sexual harassment to another sexual harassment, and they paying $13 million to cover. So what are we as a society actually saying? We'll punish you bad, but then they'll look at TV, the 42-year-old in the basement all day. Well, he did it, why can't I? You know, I'm not saying
So-
don't take responsibility, but I'm saying the ones that's making the rules also are the ones breaking the rules, and there's no accountability. So that's where my mindset is.
So,
If we can
so I'm certainly
have
not gonna make any judgment about Bill O'Reilly, at this point, okay? And whatever happened, and I will deal with it. But what I will say is, you might have Bill O'Reilly on probation. How are you gonna treat him? How are you gonna approach the problem?
Can I ask a question?
Understand?
I'm lost. What did he do?
Oh, let's.
No, I just brought it up, sorry. Sorry.
We are not gonna open up that can of worms, okay? But I'm just saying, that's, yes, it could be somebody that's high profile, it could be just your run-of-the-mill 42-year-old guy that's living in his basement and not waking up till 9 in the morning. Is that bad? 9 in the morning? Okay. Attitudes and beliefs. We've been talking a lot about that, right? These things you carry around with you. The assumptions you bring into a conversation. Wade is and since he's become a supervisor, and he's not treating me with respect anymore, and that's why we're having to knock down the copies. These general things, these general beliefs about society. To be loyal is my highest value. Gets you into trouble. That's these attitudes and beliefs about the world. Snitches get stitches. I cannot snitch.
snitches are worse than sex offenders.
Yeah. Maybe you need to start snitching, for God's sakes. These guys that you're hanging out with are killing people. Maybe you need to start snitching. You know what I'm saying? A little bit. And do the world a favor. So it's these attitudes and beliefs. I have. Snitches get stitches. We can't do that. I got to be loyal to this group of people no matter what. And then my attitude and belief, they need to start snitching. See, it's all an attitude and beliefs. And sometimes they are good, but sometimes in and of themselves, but they can lead to some bad things. If you let others tell you what to do, you are weak. Did you get that freaking copy? It's like, can't you like obey the superior's orders? Is it that hard for you?
First off, you're not my superior.
So again, POs don't get it. They just don't get it. They can never relate to me. They can never tell me anything that could be of benefit to me. They could never speak into my life about anything. They didn't go through it. Their dad didn't sneak in the morning at 2 in the morning. There's no way in the world. They just don't get it. They don't get it. You especially. So we're gonna do, let's see how we're doing time-wise. I think we need to start breaking it up and have them doing their own thinking reports.
Should we have them do their own thinking report, or should we
Should
chart
we,
one?
should we chart one?
Okay.
Let's chart one.
Let's do a quick one.
All right. So we're gonna do another role play. If you're up for it. And I'm a probationer, I'm on probation. Nick is a probation officer. There he is sitting up in his hind mighty.
We're already 10 minutes late. This is a weekly occurrence, Wade. We've talked about this.
I'm a 10-minute, weekly occurrence because I've like asked you 10 times
What have you asked me?
if I could come a little bit later.
And it's 4:45. I leave at 5. Are you serious? Come on, man.
I got kids to pick up from school, get them home. It's like you don't.
from school. I gotta get them home. Excuses. Come on, man. I have tried to accommodate you. I don't know how many times.
Oh yeah, you're just bending over backwards to
I
accommodate.
have.
Yeah.
We started this out. We've gone.
Thanks a lot.
I
This
even
is what
see
it
you
looks
over my lunch hour to accommodate you. So you didn't have to pick up kids. And
Oh yeah. Well, I'm not like getting paid $100,000 like you to sit here and
Oh, yeah,
be here.
okay.
I actually am working for $8.50 an hour, and I'm bending over backwards to get here.
Well, it's not my fault that you screwed up in life. I went to school. Yeah, that just happened.
What's happening here is that, if you get my ass in jail, then you'll get a pay bump. I think that's what's actually happening.
Really?
Yeah, you get your little bonus.
I've never
So you
seen
want
a
to just want to set me
bonus
up for failure and take me down? Is that your goal?
check. You know what? Gosh, you're the laziest bum. I thought you were laziest bum when you first came to my office, okay? But I didn't want to judge you at all, and I wanted to give you a shot.
Don't want to judge me. That's just such a
You know
joke.
what? Shut up. Just get here on time. Just get here on time. I'm sick of you.
I made a lot of progress while I'm on probation.
And you get your sentence out.
And you don't even see it. Yeah, and because I'm not as articulate as you are with your fancy education, who actually went to school, you want to judge me.
I am judging.
I had nothing when I got on probation. Now I work 20 hours a week, can pick my kids up from school, and you just want to sit there all high and mighty and judge me.
You're right. You're right. I tried giving you a shot. That obviously didn't work out. Now you're making $8.50 an hour. You're picking kids up from school. Oh my gosh, you're working. You know what, Wade? Sick of it. Sick of it. Next time you show up late, doing a warrant for your arrest. Fine. Yeah, it is going to be fun.
I will not be at my next appointment. Will not be there. So let's do a thinking report. Let's, if we could cut the slide mic for a minute. How do we turn that off?
Sure. There's a control right on the top way to turn off the projector.
Oh, okay. Here's the
Right
remote.
there.
Power. Okay. All right. And let's.
Does this just go straight up?
Polish for. So let's do a thinking report on the role play that we just enacted. First part, situation.
So what was the situation, guys?
Facts, just the facts, people.
It's always late.
What's that?
Wade's always late.
He's always late?
He shows up late, today.
Okay. Wade shows
Wade
up
shows up late to the
late
meeting,
to the meeting today.
because that's what we currently know.
That's what we
The other
know.
things are assumptions that we have in the past, but we don't know that for a fact.
What we know and just observing it. How's everybody with that?
So Wade showed up 10 minutes late today. Can we all agree on that?
Yes.
Wade, can you agree on that?
Well, not me personally.
Did you show up? Did you show up to your appointment?
I showed up 10 minutes late. I have a lot of good reasons for it, and you just won't even listen.
Excuses.
Exactly. See, you just think they're excuses. We're legit. We're
Did you say
legit.
excuses? Thank you. Kind of hold him accountable for once.
Okay. So, Wade showed up 10 minutes late. Okay. Were there any rules on Nick, because I think he broke way more rules than I broke. That's my personal opinion. I broke some rules, right? He broke some rules. We're gonna focus this on him. Did he break some rules? I don't know. I mean, I'm siding with me right now. I don't know what you guys think about him.
Yes.
Did he? Did he?
How did I break rules?
You were agitator.
I'm an
You
agitator.
were agitating the situation.
I can buy into that. But wait a second, this guy, I mean, Nick,
accommodated him.
he has let him get away with this over and over and over again.
And we've been having this discussion.
In professionalism, you're still supposed to keep it where you focus and address the issues with Wade that he violated, but you're still supposed to have kept your composure and kept it professional.
So he can't be human. He can't ever just, no? I mean, and, you know, how many times do I have to put up with him being late? Sorry, why am I defending you?
Because I'm right. Oh, I'm sorry. So, yeah,
Be
why?
more respectful about it, though.
Why does he deserve that? He's been disrespectful to me.
Let's put both of these things up here.
Treat people how you want to be treated.
So this is Wade's situation. This is the rule Wade broke. What rule did he break? Is there something we can all agree on?
What rule did I break, if any?
Keep it to his level.
Oh, so he's low? And I'm higher than him?
Yeah, you're,
I mean,
because of your profession, you're held to a certain level, standard.
Okay.
So that's the part that you
Okay.
I don't know, different styles.
You didn't use your own motivational, you
He
didn't.
doesn't deserve it.
But you didn't attack the root cause of why he was there, which is to keep him on his goals. You would have caused him to lose the focus and become more agitated and maybe not want to put an effort forth to do better on his timing. I don't know how to explain
I've given him
it.
so many opportunities to get it together, and he just won't do it.
But that's what probation is about, the opportunities to show them the direction.
Just how many opportunities are we talking about? I mean, seriously, how many opportunities are we talking about? I mean, I don't know.
What about you guys? You guys are volunteers. How many opportunities do we give these people?
Too many.
Too many.
Oh, okay, so there's an attitude of belief, right? Interesting, interesting. So, what do you think you did wrong, if anything? If you can,
I snap on you too quick.
Okay,
That's not my style. I know what my style is. If something is going on with me, I brought some sort of anger, I brought some sort of frustration, anger into that appointment.
okay, so he thinks it's wrong. He thinks the rule that he broke was he expressed too much anger. For you, I mean, too much anger. Is that, and again, this is a little bit of what's right for you, right? Right. And you might be wrong, and we might be trying to talk you out a little, poke some holes in that idea. But he's saying he broke this rule, and he expressed anger. Okay, so he expressed anger. Nick expressed anger. Okay.
Can we agree on that?
Or I expressed anger. Okay.
Frustration.
Frustration.
I think he was honestly. Now look. He expressed anger. We can all agree on that. What we won't agree on is if it was appropriate or not. Part of the people in the room might think it was perfectly appropriate. Because we don't know, right? We don't know how he's bent over backwards already trying to accommodate this dude, and we don't know the history. But he did express some anger. So in in reducing these down to just the lowest common denominator, what's happened? What's happened? Can you see some benefit in this? How it's becoming apart from us? How it is, oh my God, it was terrible. You know, no, it's more rational than that. It's more objective, it's apart from us. I was 10 minutes late. Okay, that doesn't sound like the end of the world, right? So why was he making such a big freaking deal of it? No, you know, I mean, I was 10 minutes late. That's it. He expressed some anger. That's it. That's all it is. We're trying to look at it more objectively and get ourselves out of it, and get our emotions out of it, and think of it objectively. That's what thinking works about.
Okay, I totally get it. You said these probationers get a lot of chances. Okay, so I didn't like the way the conversation started. You know, if I was in a situation, I was like, okay, wait, your appointment is at 4 o'clock. This is how we started off. It's 4:10. May I ask why were you late? You understand? We put it out there. You give you a response, and you say, okay, well, that's not gonna fly. You're supposed to be here at 4 o'clock, and just let it be known that way. So in the future, he knows, like, okay, you understand? So you don't have to keep giving all these chances, and you say, oh, okay, well, 10 minutes, and then next time, they don't keep doing the same thing over and over.
Hey, you're hired.
So.
So again, but we're human, right? I mean, look, seriously. That's why we do our homework right along with probation. Because we're human. What can you do? And we better be more professional, and we better not be going off on our clients like that, or we're gonna get our butts fired. Okay. And that's our consequences, right? That's the outcomes of our behavior. If we don't get on top of it, we don't look at our thoughts objectively. So what were some thoughts Nick was having before I came into the office and he expressed anger? What were some thoughts going through his head? We've been talking about it.
Waste of time. That's what I put on the top of my paper, respecting my time and my
Okay,
words.
wasting my time. He doesn't respect me.
My words.
He's always late.
He is always late.
He's always making excuses.
They're legit. Get off my back.
Thank you. Thank you for being on my side against Wayne.
He is always making excuses. What are the thoughts was he having before I came into that appointment?
Give it to today.
I am done. Done.
Seriously, when Wade does that, he is like at 10. When he pulls that, I'm done. Like, he is really pissed off.
He really is done. I mean, honestly. Okay, what was the, I'm sorry, what was the
I'm
last?
gonna give it to him today.
I'm gonna give it to him. Give it to him. Whatever give it means. What else?
Wasn't it for like the last appointment, like he was gonna go home at 5 or something?
It's the last appointment I'm trying to get.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have kids to pick up myself. Kids to pick up. I mean, this is looking pretty bad. I mean, what are maybe some good things that Nick was thinking?
Nick forgot that Nick forgot that it's not about him. It's about
Okay,
his
he
client,
forgot.
as he said.
And we'll go that. Maybe he will never show. He's hoping. He's hoping. You can make it easy, right? You don't show. And then after a couple times of that, we just do it more and get it over with. Okay. What are some thoughts? Remember, he was saying, don't you think he was thinking, this guy needs to learn some rules. He needs to, I've been letting him get away with this. He's feeling conflicted. I'm accommodating him too much. I'm letting myself be manipulated by this guy. What's wrong with that?
Maybe he's also trying to, I mean, in reality, you're trying to give him the better option of being in prison. So you're really just trying to
I'm
help
just
him.
trying to help him. I'm letting myself be manipulated. And then what is that? I'm trying to keep him I'm just trying to help him. Okay, so let's stop there. You can't even read my writing, so what purpose is it that I'm putting it on there? But at least it triggers my memory, I can read it. All right, let's move to the next set on the thinking report, feelings.
He was probably feeling disrespected.
Okay, so, yep, and we're gonna put that on the board. So feelings are one-word descriptions, all right, one word. Disrespect, right? Disrespect. How do you spell disrespected? Two questions or one?
One.
Okay, what else? Feelings.
Frustrated.
Frustrated. Here, Nick, you have to-
Controlled,
Frustrated. Okay, Nick felt frustrated.
controlled,
Controlled. What else?
belittled,
Manipulated.
Anything else? Anything happy? Relieved?
I know, right?
Let me throw a different spin on this. I'm hired. I have dedicated my life to trying to reach people and to help them, coach them, counsel them, whatever you want to call it, to see them succeed. I actually have a heart for this stuff. I actually love people, okay? And I'm trying to help this guy. What's my feeling right now? Hopeless, disappointed, sad. I see him, a train wreck is happening. We're losing this guy. He's not making it. I wish I was a cold-hearted cynic and he could just go off to prison and his wife is left there with the 3 kids to raise them on her own. I wish I could just say, fine, just go. It will not affect me. I don't care. Because he's doing more harm than good. I wish it was that easy. I really do. It's discouraging. I get paid for this. I've been educated for this, dedicated my life to this. I'm crying for them. They don't cry for themselves. When I go home, I'm saying a prayer for them. They're not praying for themselves. It's discouraging. The state's trusting me to work with this person. They're paying me to do this. Dedicating my life to this. And this knucklehead, he's just pissing it away. Feelings. Yeah, I got some feelings.
This is kind of a side question, but are there certain feelings, like feeling words, that you guys avoid saying to your clients because you know that that will trigger something in them that will not be productive? Like, for example, like disappointment. Like some people, they hate that word because that is the word that their parents use over and over and over, and that is the ultimate scorning word. So that will put them in a place where they won't really perceive what you're saying. So is there certain words that you avoid?
It's from client to client. Once
Right.
again, it's that hat that we all wear. I used the word disappointment with one of my female clients, and she broke down in tears, could not get through the rest of the appointment. Comes back next day to me and says, no one's cared about me enough to ever be disappointed in me. And so it was her mission to get her life back on track because somebody actually cared about her. So it's just, different for every single person, and it's a fine line that we walk.
Just thinking about it, yeah, the thought I had spinning off on that is that might be the opportunity to do the thinking report. When she hears that word, it's a trigger for her and it doesn't produce good things. So we might go, my probation officer used the word disappointment. My reaction, my thoughts were, and stuff like that. So we might actually examine that because it's a trigger for her and we want to see if it's leading, because it could be a thing where it's leading her to bad behavior. Like she breaks down crying and eventually it becomes a problem because she won't address all her issues because she needs to, so we can look at that. So we've got quite a few feelings up here. What are some attitudes and beliefs that Nick has about life? There are these general principles, these general beliefs about life or other people in general that was driving, that was behind his expression of anger. What could those be?
Time management.
Okay, so how do we turn that into an attitude and belief? He did.
He values others' time and values his own time.
Okay, so maybe it is, if you're late, you're disrespecting other people in my time, right? We're generalizing it. This is this general principle, general belief about life. Like eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. Or do unto others as you have them do unto you. Okay? This general attitude or belief.
How come everybody don't have that?
What?
Do unto others, that's it.
Good question. Raised with a different set of values.
But that's how I
Or
was.
usually everybody has it, but it's an emphasis thing. What value do they put most emphasis on? We've got a couple hands.
I think that people are controlling their own actions, towards the situation, which causes them to express anger.
He can control, people, general,
They can control
their behavior, their actions.
Is this like, where you're supposed to be like, say phrases like, if you're not early, you're late, or something? Is that what you're trying to?
Oh, yeah, it kind of speaks to that work ethic thing, that problem I have. Right. You're not early, you're late. That's just my opinion. That's my belief about the world, right? Not mine, but because I'm usually consistently about 10 minutes late in the morning. However, I will get up, at 5:30 and go to work at home before I go to work. So what other beliefs about people, about life, that might have contributed to Nick expressing anger?
They don't care. He doesn't care, he's lazy.
Okay, so people are lazy. I don't know.
All probationers are lazy.
All probationers are lazy, or probationers are lazy. Okay.
You said you're gonna do something, you should do it. Stick to your word.
Stick to your word.
You should stick to the word. People need to be taught a lesson.
You have to put an effort in order to make the rehabilitation implement.
Okay. Could it be deeper? Let's flip it like we did up here. Flip it.
Determination to better yourself.
No, like feelings that you could be having, like sad, or, what are those attitudes and beliefs?
Help me help you.
Yeah, help me help you. Or I'm a probation officer and I can't even reach this guy. I suck as a probation officer, okay? I suck as a probation officer. You know what I'm saying? It's like I can't reach people. It's these, it's the beliefs that the probation officer can develop about themselves and their own sense of self-efficacy and belief in their self about their own skills, whether they can do this job.
I'm sure there has to be a constant belief in you that there's good in everyone, which is why you want to reach them. So it could be by not being able to see that good, it's just so frustrating.
It's frustrating that he doesn't see, that Wade doesn't see the good in himself and won't stand up and walk in that. That's how we turn that into an absolute. Okay, well, there's good in everyone. Or there's darkness in everyone. That could be one too, right? All right. So let's take some time, and we're running out of time very quickly. So we're not going to be doing individual thinking reports with you guys, but we're going to finish off this thinking report today. So let's look at the next step. What is that on the thinking report? It's identifying the risk thoughts. Okay? So let's go through here and look at some of these thoughts we were having and decide, let's let Nick decide, what is, can you read this? Let Nick decide for him, what is the riskiest thought? And we'll let you guys weigh in too. So let me read through them real quick. And Nick, when you get there and you see those push button, whatever, the riskiest one that led him to express anger in the appointment, we'll identify that. He's wasting my time. He doesn't respect me. He's always late. He's always making excuses. I'm going to give it to him. I have kids to pick up. I'm letting myself be manipulated. I'm just trying to help. What? Oh, there. Yeah. Maybe you go there.
For me, it's, he doesn't respect me.
When Nick is starting to have the thought, he doesn't respect me, he knows that that's a risk thought for him. Risky thought. That's going to cause him to express, that's going to lead him to express some anger. He's going to lose a little control when he starts thinking, this kid does not have any respect for me. Let's identify one more. What else on there would be push button?
Maybe he will never show. And the reason why is because I had some coworkers ask me to go to happy hour after work. You know, this is kind of my happy hour. See?
Okay. So again, risky thought. That's what the thinking report's about. Identifying the thoughts that you're having before you do something that break a rule. Trouble. Now, see, I have a different kind of approach to the world, and there's a couple here. I'm letting myself be manipulated, and eventually, see, I'm not done with the probationer. I'm done with myself. I am done letting myself be manipulated by this kid. It's me convincing myself, not him. He's crossed the line. That kid had crossed the line a long time ago. I just hadn't got the message in my heart yet. I was still beating my head against the wall, and eventually I got mad at myself. I had been letting myself get manipulated, and I was done. And that's risky for me to let myself get there. And that's because I wasn't dealing with the issues as they were coming up. I was letting them build up and letting them get away with more. I'm just trying to help. That's so dangerous for me. I am bending over backwards trying to reach you, and I'm becoming more and more frustrated because you won't get on board and respond, and you won't care about yourself. I care about you way more. So these are the things that can set me off more than feeling disrespected. It's kind of sad in a way that people disrespecting me doesn't really bother me that much, and I think that's sad too. I hope to swing back a little this way. Hey, you're disrespecting me. I don't have that fight. It's more flight, or it's more. So we all lean to one way or the other on that stuff. Thoughts that lead us into trouble. So feelings. What feelings for Nick are risk feelings? When he starts feeling that way, he's going to cross the line. He's sort of frustrated. Why not belittle? Why frustrated?
I feel, I don't know, frustrated, just what, I don't know, just felt like in that situation.
Frustrating really does something in your body too, right?
Because like you don't have control of the situation.
Okay. Out of control. Because we put hyphens in there, that's one word, right? Feel like I'm losing control. Helpless. You have no, you have hopeless.
Hopeless, but helpless.
Helpless would be one too. Helpless. For me, I'm feeling sad. I'm losing this guy. I'm losing this guy. And this sadness, isn't sad a beautiful thing? The fact that I would get sad because I'm watching somebody blow their life up. Why does that lead me to get angry and cross the line? A perfectly good, beautiful feeling. Of course you want to feel sad when somebody's destroying their life and they're going to hell in a handbasket. How's that leading to me expressing anger, crossing the line and becoming unprofessional, right?
Because you don't know how else to reach them. You're giving it all, it's just not working.
Attitudes and beliefs. What? So we can look at those two and say, when I feel like someone is violating these attitudes and beliefs and not living up to my belief about the way they should live and the way the world works, it's a trigger for me. I want to break a rule, cross the line. I get out of hand, I say too much, I go running off the mouth. I say stuff in class I shouldn't say because the professor said something about an issue. There was a push button for me, and there I went, rambling off at the mouth again, and said something and got myself in trouble. There I went. Push button. People can control their own actions. Bless God. You're either an adult or you're not. You can make positive choices if you want to, and you're just not doing it. And I've had about enough of it. And I'm going to let you have it. So how do you feel? How do you feel today? What do you feel like your takeaway is? What did you learn? Anyone?
There's no one way to help someone, it's very situational.
Okay.
As you say, just the importance of recognizing all the underlying problems that can really affect the way someone acts.
I learned some new ways to like go about my job because I work at Concord, so I do it.
Very good.
Just see,
Also,
go ahead.
go ahead.
Just see where you can make that connection, you know, try to understand them. And one thing I would ask is, well, what works for you? What do you need? You know what I mean? So, because only a person knows what they need to make you successful. You can't figure it out for them.
And that's why we do this, you know, this is mine. It's okay, it's mine, I own that. And I'm not gonna be embarrassed of that, you know? I'm just call it for what it is, and we get it out there and call it for what it is. Make us different, nothing wrong, nothing wrong. They both could lead us to express anger, right, inappropriately. For me, nothing wrong with being frustrated, nothing wrong with being sad. And putting these out there, identifying them, helps us to examine them objectively and start choosing some new thoughts about the world, new attitudes and beliefs about the world. And when we do that, good feelings come. We got 1 minute. So what we do, final thoughts, replace that thought. Try to replace that thought in a way that it will lower my risk of going off on that guy when he walks in the door. What's a new thought?
That maybe you just never really learned how to respect other people, or didn't understand that value.
Okay, so maybe he was never taught that value. Does that sound right? Okay, there's an idea. taught that value.
If he doesn't understand it, if he doesn't understand where you're coming from, if he thinks he's disrespecting you.
Doesn't, there it is, understand me. Nick, what would you say? What would work for you?
Both would work.
They both would work for you. So this takes the edge off a little. So what's the feeling now? I don't feel as frustrated and disrespected. I feel a new word, I feel understood, or understanding. Is understanding as risky of a word as disrespected? See how all this is working now? You adopt a new thought, your feelings change because of the new thought. It's a lower risk thought for you, a lower risk feeling. This would work for me. He's never been taught that value, and he doesn't understand. It would work for me as well, but something different may work for you. I've given you those thinking reports. Take them home, run copies of them. Use them on your own situations when you break a rule. Remember I said that we put POs to this. We do the homework. We have to use the situations for us. You guys have been fantastic.